From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrus with Weather Weeklies.
And good Sunday morning to you, everybody. This is another edition of Weather Weeklies, and given that intro, if you did listen to the intro there, it says that the opinions of my opinions here in this editorial blog are mine only, and not the opinions necessarily of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC. And that's because I'm going to go into some things in this video that are my opinions that might not agree with those forecasters, and I don't want to discredit any of the other forecasters on my staff at all. But there's some differences of opinion I'm starting to have here with especially some of the stuff in the long range. But we'll get into that in this video here. And first of all, if you we have an alert map out right now for the weekend for the storm on Monday. This is a snow and ice event for many, especially northwest of I-95. So if you do want information on that storm, please go on the home page and click on the weather alert maps section. Give us our latest call, and which is still a first call, and we expect that to be a final call this evening. Let's get into the long range pattern here and discuss that. First of all, this is the latest long range from meteorologist Mike DeFino, and the temperature is expected to be below average through the 18th, and then we have this period right in the middle here, which is a near or slightly above normal time frame. Okay, 18th to 22nd. Now I'm hearing a lot of things on these other Facebook pages. I have people ask me about them all the time. So, I'm on the social media page and I hear somebody say, well, DT's saying this, and he's saying it's going to be epic warmth and winter's over. You got to look at the bigger picture of things sometimes, and sometimes you got to look at observations, and you have to look at the things going on around you. There's certain forecasters out there, and I'm not saying about DT, I just hear his name a lot. There's certain forecasters out there that they like to hug the hell out of a model, and they'll just take whatever the model's showing right then and there and say, oh, well, this is what's happening next week. And you got to stop and look what's going on around you and see the other observations. Okay, there are some things that are encouraging that will change the winter around a little bit. There's also some things that are discouraging. So sometimes you get caught up as forecasters and with biases, and you really can't let that play into the biases, play into your opinions and things like that, and play into your forecasts in this business. Because if you do, if you're like a snow hound and you're just pushing for snow, and you really want snow, you're going to forecast snow, and you're going to go aggressive with snow, and then you're going to be wrong because you went too aggressive. So same idea here with the warmth. If you're going too aggressive with the warmth, and you see something, you're stuck on an idea, and you don't see the whole big picture, it's going to skew your opinions a little bit. You're going to start thinking that, well, winter's over, and that's might as well just stick a fork in and let's go on to the next year. Well, we're not doing that. Or at least I'm not. So we have this period here between the 18th and 22nd that is below normal. I'm going to show you a graphic here in a minute that kind of shows you, or excuse me, above normal. I'm going to show you a graphic here in a minute that's going to show you this period here and what we're talking about as far as above normal temperatures, this epic warmth that we're hearing on some of these Facebook pages. And of course, I'm not looking at them. I hear them. You guys put it on the Facebook page in comments. This guy said this. This gal said that. Well. And I admire that you want to look at other sources. Just to understand that we have our own forecasting. We do our own thing. So just because somebody else says something doesn't mean that we agree with it. All right. Then we also outline a period here for this is the weekend storm right here. This is a light to moderate event. This is snow. Actually, we could add ice on here also because obviously there's going to be a substantial amount of ice for some areas, especially in our central areas over to northern New Jersey. That's for this event this Monday. Now we have another system here listed here as a coastal lope with a possible significant event. We like this period for about 2 weeks, and this has been on our target list for 2 weeks. But the models are not showing anything enormous right now. I'll show you that in this video too. But we still could have an opportunity for something here. But if this doesn't produce, we might be in trouble. We're going to get into that in the video also. And then also we have the period after the 22nd going back to below average, so the 23rd onwards. So that's only a 4-day period where it goes above normal, and then we go right back in the tank after that. All right, so let's go to the January thaw first. This is what everybody's talking about, this middle of the month thing, and everybody's saying, "Oh, this epic warm-up's coming." Well, because they see this here. There's a fast west-east flow, and everything's zonal. There's no amplification here. There's none of this. You need that in order to have these big storms and cold intrusions coming down from the Arctic. Well, that's not happening right now. There's a fast Pacific jet west-east flow, and that's because the QVO is so high. We've had, or so low, I should say. We've had a QVO that are at near record levels right now in terms of consecutive months, and the lowest recorded territory for the month of December. So the QVO is still pretty fast. It's slowed down a little bit, but it's still pretty quickly. But still, the jet's coming in west-east, and what that does, it just floods the air with warm air. And you can see that here on this projection for the 19th of January on the European model ensemble. Okay, but what does that do? Let's get realistic here. We're going to look at what the temperatures do by having that fast Pacific jet and zonal flow. Yes, it does moderate. But look what these temperatures are: 40s, low to mid 40s. All right, now, yeah, that's warmer than we've had, but we're not. I want to get everybody the idea that we're talking about 50s and 60s here. Now, where DT forecast for is down in Virginia, low to mid 50s. Okay, that's a little bit warmer. I can see his point. So you have to understand geographically what he's talking about sometimes. Yes, he does talk big patterns and the big overall scheme of things, but he's basically concerned about this area right here. So yes, it is warmer than normal. We are talking about low to mid 50s in that area. On our area here, it's low to mid 40s. Is this really epic warmth? No. But are you going to get snow at that temperature? No. So does it matter? No. I'm not going to sit here and argue over a couple degrees worth of temperature. But the bottom line is, this is not a pattern here looking for that we want to look at for snow. Now, one of the things we talked about in the last video was the Madden Julian oscillation. All that is convection near the date line, or excuse me, along the equator. And you want it to be along the date line, or just east of it. Here's your international date line. Okay, 180 degrees. North America is sitting right here. Pennsylvania is right here. We're putting a little X. All right, here's Alaska, West Coast, Central America, East Coast. Okay, this convection right here, where in its position along the date line here, is what determines our patterns here in a 30 to 60 day oscillation cycle. So we have these, you'll hear for the Madden Julian oscillation talk about phase 1 through 8, and there's different phases that I'll show you in a minute that are more favorable than others. If this convection, which is moving eastward, is propagating eastward, it needs to continue to get to the date line or just east of it. What that does is it throws heights at the ridge here on the west, allows it a ridge to increase out west here. And if you have a big ridge out west, you have a big trough in the east. That's the whole idea. And if you have a trough, obviously cold air is coming down from Canada. The western United States gets really warm. Good for them. All right. So then you have a chance for big storms along the east coast as well. This is continuing to propagate eastward. So, and it's projected to do so. So by doing that, here's the projection, by the way. Here's the projection of the MJO. Right now we're in phase 6. We're right here. Okay, and this is expected to go into phase 7. Now the GFS ensembles have backed off a little bit. Instead of taking this through 7, 8, and 1, it's now trying to collapse this down into the circle of death, which means the Madden Julian oscillation will have no effect on the pattern if that's what happens. So that's something we have to keep an eye on. This is not a good thing. This is not looking as good as it did a couple days ago. All right. So this is just all of this is a measure of the convection and where it is along the equator in terms of the international date line. If it's closer to the international date line, you get into phase 7, 8, and 1. Those are your favorable phases for big East Coast storms and cold in the eastern United States. We have to get there. Right now we're in 6. Okay, here's the MJO phases again. We showed this in the last video. Again, we're in phase 6 right now. Phase 6 is promoting warmth. See these oranges and reds, or yellows and oranges here? These are all above normal temperatures, departures from normal, compared to what normal is for this time of year. You get into phase 7, okay, we go slightly below normal. See that? You're getting these light blues, dark blues up here in the upper Midwest. Phase 8, even better, very cold over the Northeast. Okay, phase 1, still cold over the Northeast. So these are your favorable phases if you want cold and snow along the East Coast. And actually, if I had to pick one, I'd rather have phase 8 is usually an overwhelming cold, just cold and dry. All right, phase 7 usually have the southeast ridge might trying to fight back a little bit. Same thing with phase 1. Southeast ridge might try to fight back a little bit. You might get some increased moisture thrown at some east coast storms. All right, so we're heading into phase 7. What it does after that is still up in the air. And what we keep doing is looking at all these things and saying, wow, this looks promising down the road. Well, it's been looking promising down the road. Nothing's been happening here. And I understand everybody's frustration. Here's the stratospheric help that we're trying to look for. This is going on right now. There's a very, very strong warming going on over Greenland right now at 10 millibars. Now, we need this to downwell down to 500 millibars, which is where, in the troposphere where we live. If this occurs, this can help you out significantly. That means you can finally establish a very strong blocking signature over Greenland if this does downwell, if this does work. If you have a negative NAO, which we have not had last year, have not had it this year, then you can get these big East Coast storms. As long as you have amplification, you get these. You can slow down the pattern here and cause the amplification. Have these big East Coast storms right along the coast here, and that's how you get your blizzards. All right, need this NAO to work out. Okay. If it's not going to work out, you can kiss it goodbye. Now, I'm not saying that you might not have another one here in February, but you're running into. You got to remember, whenever you have one of these episodes going on, this is current. This is going on right now. So this usually takes about 10 to 14 days to downwell to the surface and have an effect on our weather down here. So in order to get the negative NAO established, you're looking at probably the end of January into February. Okay, and once it's established, it can sit there for a while. So you really want this to work out if you want some snow and cold along the East Coast. Right now, there's no guarantee this happened. We have several failed attempts so far. Actually, all of them have been failed attempts from downwelling, but this one's a pretty strong one. Has a pretty good chance. You see, it's kind of off the charts here with the amount of warmth shown at that level. So if it downwells, we have a shot. If it doesn't, you're kind of picking straws here. All right, and we talked about what the problem is and what's going on is that the QBO is creating the very low number of QBO numbers are creating a very, very, very fast Pacific jet west to east. That's the problem. So you can't get any ridges established, and if you do, every time one tries to build, it just gets squashed by this ridge. And if you don't have a ridge, you get the big trough over the east. So what ends up happening is this ridge starts to build. Okay. You get a ridge starting to build here, and then it gets squashed, so everything downstream just gets flattened out, and you can't have any big storms along the east coast here. Now, there is a window of opportunity for something to sneak in here, and that was this mid-month threat here. I'm going to show you the 6C GFS from yesterday, because there are no models showing it currently. They're all out to sea with it, but they are starting to creep it back a little bit. If the Pacific jet can slow down a little bit, and the models are just maybe not figuring that out, maybe it is not as fast as what they think that it will be in this time frame. If it slows it down, and you have a storm close to the coast here, big storm here, you can have a big interior snowstorm, at the very least. Now, I probably would think this would be a little bit further southeast with the snow here. They're probably depicting that incorrectly, but the point is you can have a big snowstorm if this Pacific jet can slow down. That's all we need to do. All the models have a low offshore. They all have it out here like this, though, because the Pacific jet is too fast. It's still definitely cold enough here. Cold enough. All right? But what is happening is it's coming up the coast here, and it can't make this turn. It's going like that instead of coming up here like this. It's not making that turn because the Pacific jet the northern jet's just slamming into this thing, pushing it east. That's basically what's going on. So here's this look at the Canadian. European model is very similar. And we're going to have to watch these threats over the next couple days here and see if the late week threat is still there. It's still a possibility, but we haven't written it off, of course. But if this one doesn't produce, then this is my concern. Mike DeFino is our long range forecaster, and he has a lot of hope for late January and the month of February. But I'll tell you what, if this thing doesn't produce, there is nothing in the pipeline after this. Nothing. You get nothing going on. So now you're talking about heading toward the end of January. You might get into some storm threats there at the very end. What do you have going on here? I mean, here it is. The calendar is going to be turned into February very, very soon, and you're running out of time. So, I'm starting to look at this just from my perspective. I'm looking at this like, wow, we have less than 10 inches of snow in many locations across our coverage area here. We expected 40 or more, under 40% of normal. and we have a long way to go. And we only have very limited time to do it. If you're going to tell me these next 2 weeks are going to be blah, no, like you might get cold, sure. You may get warm for a couple days, which is what we showed is 40s, 40 degrees. Okay, you have that for a couple days, then you get below average. You still need storms, and if this one doesn't produce, this one right here, you're going to be well behind. So obviously we know the one this weekend is very minor snow, if any at all, going over to ice. That's not helping the snow totals. So I feel everybody's pain, and I understand where you're coming from. We're going to continue to re-examine this as we see what happens with this system this week. But I think if this doesn't produce, I think we're going to have to seriously consider lowering snowfall projections for the winter, because I just don't see us having enough time to do it. Can it still happen? I mean, of course. We needed an epic setup though. We need something like we had last year. Last February we had 35, 40 inches of snow in some locations in the month of February. So you can make up for it in a hurry, but you need everything to line up perfectly, like I showed you with the blocking, with the MJO, and things like that. And we're going to have to just wait and see if this all comes together. Right now, there's things that look promising, but they've been look promising for a while now. Nothing's come to fruition. So why should I start thinking that the progressive pattern and the QBO being so high is not going to continue to have a negative effect on this winter? Because I really think it will. But that's just me. We'll look at this again in next week's video. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies. Hope you enjoyed it. Join us again next week for another edition of Weather Weeklies. I'm meteorologist Bobby Martrich. Have a great Sunday.